Hi, I'm Heddle's publisher David Shuck, and welcome to Heddle's Blowout, a very special edition and episode of Blowout, because I'm very pleased to announce, for the first time in several years, and we've only announced this maybe a half dozen times in the whole history of Heddle's, we have got a new product collaboration coming out. It is a shoe. Not the first time we've done shoes, not the first time we've done sneakers, but this is the first time anyone has seen a sneaker like this. I'm very pleased to announce the Grand Union Wholecut Sneaker with Crown Northampton, the makers of arguably the world's best sneaker, the one made to the highest tolerances with the best materials and the best techniques. And we have done that with something completely new, a denim that will never ever blow out. So you can wear a denim piece of footwear that will last as long as any of the leather line from Crown Northampton's made in-house in the UK sneaker line. So we've got me and James on the mic here with Chris Woodford, the fifth generation shoemaker and the head of Crown Northampton, and we discuss everything that went into the process of making the shoe, when it will be available, November 3rd, how you can get a hand on one, and how you can take part in the first ever foot fading contest. So I hope you enjoy this. And Chris, thank you very much for joining us. We are very pleased to be here at the finish line with you with our Grand Union sneakers. So, we've talked extensively for, almost 2 years now that we've been developing these, knowing the process and really getting to know each other back and forth. So I was wondering, for folks that don't know about Crown Northampton and know how you make the world's best sneaker and then how we together made the world's best denim sneaker, if you could go into a little bit about yourselves and what it is that you do at Crown Northampton.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It sounds a bit egotistical, doesn't it, to say we make the world's best sneaker? But it took a long, long time to get to that point. Like, it started with my grandfather like 120 years ago, and it's changed a lot over the years. But of late, and what's working for us is selling direct to consumer. So moving away from like the wholesale business model and selling direct to consumer, and that's allowed me to use whatever materials I like and to justify price points, to explain price points, to talk about the quality and difference in materials. And that's why tapping into, especially being from Northampton and the heritage that Northampton has, is kind of world renowned, I suppose. Everywhere else in the world I go, people talk about the shoe trade and they say, "Oh, Northampton, yeah, they make all the really high end shoes." Like, yeah, that's true, and it's about, for me, being born here, tapping into that history and utilizing the staff that are third and fourth generation like me, shoemakers, that can create and work with and discuss and work out how to make cool stuff, which is why when we started chatting 2 years ago, and obviously I knew you guys about heavy into denim, I thought perhaps there's something there. I know we tried some other bits before, and I'm really pleased that we ended up with the denim, and I'm really pleased with the materials that I combined it with to complement it. Yeah, so we make the world's best denim sneaker, you can say, but it's a bit tongue in cheek, but it's like it's based on heritage, based on centuries of heritage of Northamptonshire, and based on our past and our knowledge, and being one of the there's 6 or 7 factories left in Northampton making shoes, and I don't know, 50 years ago that's all the town did. So the ones that are left really know what they're doing, and we all kind of know each other, and we can all learn from each other. Like, even learning to cut the Denim we'll go into later, but I had to get the help from other guys in the industry.
Mm. Yeah, it's not usual stuff, but Northamptonshire, and you and James can speak much more to this than I, but like it's the de facto shoemaking capital of the world. It's where, all the big names in British shoemaking came out of there, and you're right in the very center.
Yeah. I'll probably let. Yeah, actually, James, is it like you're not from Northampton? It's probably best you describe how like you think how it's perceived to you, I suppose.
I guess it's one of those things that everyone knows. Like you say, it's the de facto capital, but I don't think you really feel it until you visit. Like when I came up to see you guys at the factory and watch the collaboration being produced, we were just, when you picked me up from the station, we were just driving around and you're like, look, there's trickers and look, there's this. It's like, it's funny really. But yeah, I mean, everyone knows that Northampton's where it's, that is just, like you say, it's like the mecca of shoemaking, isn't it? So many of the techniques that you just see on shoes from all of the thousands of brands that are out there originate in Northampton, including like the whole cut that we've used on this collaboration. That's like a Northamptonshire technique, if I'm correct.
Sort of, yeah, sort of. Whole cut originated from bespoke makers early 1900 and something, going to tournaments to show who was the best shoemaker. And the hardest way to last something is when it's a whole cut, because you've got to form it to the last. Usually back in those days, as we do now with a big gap in between where it probably wasn't the case when it's mass produced, but when there's a lot of water used and a lot of setting things to the shape of the last, a lot of getting the fits right and then molding the upper so that it fitted the curves of every individual last. And the whole cut was probably the most technically difficult to work with. Yeah. And also it uses a load more material, as in if you're the most cost effective way to cut something, especially in leather, is that you're getting small pieces and putting them all together so that you can get a better cutting coefficient out of leather. Boring phrase, but it kind of matters because it's about money. But when it's a whole cut, you're going, actually, it's not about all the kind of design flair. It's more about the manufacturing that matters. It's more about the uniqueness of the product than it is about the patterns, someone being egotistical about the patterns. Like designers often go, look what I've designed. Which for us, it's not really about that. And that's why we always sort of lean towards the whole cut. Yeah, but it originated in the early 1900s, I think.
Yeah, and I guess out of all the places I've been in the UK, it's the place whereby you can feel its heritage almost instantaneously as you arrive there. Like, as I said, as we were driving around, there's like the Tricker's factory, but then even just old buildings that might be being redeveloped have got like, so-and-so's shaft makers or something, or what is it, shank makers or something.
Yeah,
you
shank
can
makers,
just
last works, boot works.
Yeah. You just see little kind of dabs of that heritage everywhere you go. And then when you were sort of taking me around and you were saying, above that restaurant used to be a this, and used to be, they used to make lasts there or something. It's just, it's one of those places where you can really feel that that's really all the town did. All those years ago, and it's a shame it's not that anymore. But you guys are doing.
It's not like that,
job.
no. But it's about. It's not about kind of the history of it is really important, but it's not about selling the history. It's about turning it into something more suitable for today's market, which is why we're doing the sneakers that we do and why they're doing so well. But it's also like if you're born in Northampton, you're born in the hospital that was in the wing of that hospital was built by people in the shoe trade. It's called the Barrett Ward after Barrett shoes from like 70 or 80 years ago. It's like you can't help but see it in the town. It's really sad to see how little of it there is left. But we're doing our best to kind of reverse that. We're growing because of like the way we're now able to, like, through people like you, talk about like what it is we can do and how you can make something really amazing, and it doesn't have to be ridiculously expensive, and it doesn't have to have it's not got the markup of like a big brand. It has to be about when the beauty of being really small and probably unknown is that the product has to be good. and the fact we've been here for 100 odd years shows that we must be doing something right. It's our stamp of quality. And hopefully people kind of get that whenever they get our products.
Yeah, and you are training the next generation of makers as well, because you've talked, and maybe again this is a point that both of you could go. You make everything in house, and you're developing a lot of your own techniques, and you have to have very skilled hands to do them. I think at one point you told me that it takes about 5 years to be able to do hand stitching effectively. And so
Yeah.
it's sort of you're giving back into the community with those skills and those trains.
Yeah, there's. I think I might have one over here. I don't know if we're using the video, but that sneaker is all hand welted, as was done. Not exactly like that, but hand welting was done 150 years ago on the streets of the town when everyone did it. It became rarer and rarer and rarer and rarer, and it got to the point where I had to employ my old lecturer who's 80 years old because he's the only person left I could find that could teach these guys how to hand welt. Because it's just mass production just killed the industry, and if if it's just about volume, then it's cheaper to get stuff made elsewhere. And that I just it's really easy to say now, but I wish I could go back like 30 years and say to these buyers that were saying we need it cheaper, for the guys in Northampton to go, no, what we do is really specialist and really rare. It has to be expensive, rather than sort of have to bend to those needs of, God, they need it cheaper. I better buy a material from somewhere else, or down spec the quality a little bit. Well, I wish they'd just, it's lots easier now because I have a voice. And owners back then, they had no voice. They were reliant on distributors who were reliant on their buyers. And all those channels that you have to go through add a cost to something. And it's about reverse engineering that, almost going back to like what my great granddad did in his shop in London. He serviced the local area where people could come in and have a chat, get measured up, get the fit right, talk about the levers, get a boot that lasted years and years and years, because that was value. Whereas what's considered value now is sort of, it's the same thing, but something's got lost along the way, where people buy 50 pairs of trainers or 10 pairs of trainers because they don't last very long. It's the quality can still be there. It's just we now, as the remaining shoemakers, have to shout about why that's really important and what that means. Like, it costs a bit of money, but it lasts 5 times as long as something off a shelf in a shop. And it's that value and that's that ethos that I know we share. But that's what's led to us training people. Yeah, back to hand welting and making really, really expensive sneakers that we make absolutely no money making because they take so long to make and they use the rarest materials in the world. But it's sometimes products are really important and do matter. And it's especially from the town I'm from. It's really difficult to, unless you're from here, I suppose, and unless you have that knowledge of what's kind of available. I feel like and the guys here especially feel like they were kind of like the last bastions of it. Like they were, because I take the hand makers around the world now. We go to Japan and we put on events in Isetan, in department stores, where they're hand making in front of people going, what is that? Whereas 100 years ago, that's all that everyone was doing it. You know, it's really interesting, I suppose it's just because it's expensive. That's why it kind of is difficult to do, and which is why it's so important that we talk about why expensive doesn't always mean it's a rip-off, why it can sometimes mean value, and it should be expensive. Yeah, so we are trying to recreate a lot of the old trade and the old industry by utilising and tapping into a lot of the old Northamptonian shoemakers that are still here. Yeah.
Well, yeah, when you talk about value, even though the price tag may be high, this is like we've been beating the drum of cost per wear for well over a decade now, and the idea being like, okay, you know, the sneakers that we made together are going to come to $440, which may seem expensive, but they're a pair of sneakers that you can resole, and the upper. This is something that I'm very proud of, that we used a denim upper. So even though it's a textile upper, it's never going to blow out because it has some ridiculous tensile strength of like 550 kilos. So, even though this is, maybe the cost of several pairs of sneakers, it's going to last as long as 10 if you recraft them, and they're going to age and develop with you and be the best fitting pair that you've ever had. Because you're just able to spend that much time with them because of the technique and the materials used.
Yeah, really important. Like, that is probably our most important part of designing any new product is I start with the material. It's not about my designs, it's about the material leading the design. And I'm really wary of synthetics in general. But Dyneema is something different, man. Like, cutting it is nigh on impossible. Like, I can see why it's so rare. Is it right that there's like one roll of it left? Like, this, what we've got is all there is. Is that right?
Yeah, of this particular material. So the denim that we used is about a 14 ounce Dyneema, like 30% blend. So it's about 70% cotton, 30% Dyneema woven in there. So it'll still fade and age like cotton, but it will never break. So it was woven in Italy, and the company that made it, like this was sort of their top of the line product, and Avient, and then they went down market a bit more because this was made for like motorcyclists. So if you fall off like your motorcycle, the denim that we used on it, even though it just feels like regular denim, you can skid for about I believe 50 or 60 feet on this stuff without it blowing out. Whereas with a regular denim, you'd get maybe 3 feet before it went. So this is like the equivalent of
Yeah,
I think 2
yeah,
millimeter thick leather
Mm.
in this very very thin denim package. Because
yeah.
I've
Okay.
always been a little bit
Yeah,
wary of denim sneakers. Uh, just because they wouldn't last as long. But now, yeah, this is something that will hold up. I wanted to use a material that was the equal to your manufacturing techniques and the longevity that would go into a pair of sneakers like this to justify you making them.
Even if you manage to blast through the Dyneema denim somehow, there's like lovely veg tan calf leather underneath it. So it's like it's not well, it's like it's not it's just like the integrity of them is really something to behold. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I can testify to from a manufacturing point. I can testify to the durability, like the strength of the material. So, like, I'll take you on a little walk of what it was like to make to make. So, before we start making anything, I want to understand it's worth using it. So we'll cut a sample. So any sample, it doesn't matter. It's just about understanding the material. And to cut it, it wouldn't cut with a really sharp cutting knife. It just wouldn't cut. It wouldn't cut under a press. And normally with a synthetic, we've done a couple of specialist stuff for like beams in Japan where they used a synthetic, and we had serrated like press knives under a press that you cut. That kind of worked, but it would not work on this material. So that didn't work. Then we tried a scalpel, which didn't work. Then eventually I had a discussion with, I was giving up, just spoke to a couple of shoemakers about this material. They were like, it's just a denim material. Surely it will cut. They came, had a go, would not cut. But as they were here, they happened to have a friend that I think they were doing some building work at their house, and they said, he had like a disc cutter, like a rotary disc cutter in his van, and he came and was like, I reckon this might cut through it. And it's like, like a sharp disc cutter you'd use to cut, I don't know,
Yeah.
paving slabs in a garden, but a kind of handheld one. And he used that on it, and that actually cut it. And so that's how I learned how to cut Dyneema denim, was chatting to some blokes and happening to have a builder at present, and then working out a way to cut it. It was amazing stuff for that perspective. Then working out how to, like, because it's denim, it is going to fray a little bit. So cutting it, we worked out. Challenging. It even like blunts the blade of a spinning disc. We have to sharpen it after every pair. It's like, it is a pain in the ass, but it's like some things are worth it. I have a really weird mentality of like, it's the same as with our leather. If the leather is not used by like mass production and it's really natural and it can't be used by mass production because it's too expensive and it's too challenging to work with, that's what I work with. And so I have a weird thing. Is like, if it's the harder it became to cut, the more I wanted to use it. It's like, I'm gonna do it. So anyway, we got through that. That's how we ended up knowing we could cut it, which is important. But then it became like, how do you stop it fraying at the edges? And that's a lot to stop fraying. It's about understanding how to seal the edges of the material. So we sort of back it with something, and then any edge that's on show, we have to fold it and machine it to the lining. So if I've got one behind me, if anyone ever sees this. So all of the shoes will be folded at the top where there's a join in the leather. And if there's any bits that would have been shown as a raw edge, like underneath the facing at the front, that would have been showing. So we have to fold that under and seal it so that there's no raw edges on show. And that like was the challenge, because weirdly, when we got it into lasting and making, and this is the bit where I can say like it is comparable to leather. It's not the same, but it's comparable. It's like when you pull it on a last, that's the biggest fear for me, because you're putting quite a lot of like strength in pulling it over the shape of the mold of your foot, which is what a last is, and to get the shape to hold. It didn't move at all. Like it sat exactly like a leather. It's got a slight pull in it. Another thing that's quite like leather is leather we cut tight to toe. And the reason for that is that when you're pulling a shoe onto a last, you don't want it to stretch all over the place. You want it to pull down the straightness of your foot. So the stretch goes across your foot. And the denim actually has the same thing. It has quite a tight toe, but a little bit that allows it to pull over the last. And it has a little bit more stretch across the width of it, which allows it to fit your foot a lot better. So if it doesn't fit like perfectly like leather, it has a couple of millimeters stretch in it over time, which allows it to like adapt just like the veg tan lining leather will. So over time, leather we use leather on everything, really unusual leathers, but the reason we do it is because it evolves and adapts with your foot as your foot changes as you get older. The denim will do the same thing. And so like I can justify using it and sort of go, yeah. Actually, I can see, first of all, I can see why it's not used in mass production because you can't cut it. But I can see why it would work in a shoe, which is kind of the most important thing. As a shoemaker, using a material, it works in a shoe.
Yeah, that's good to hear, but sorry to send you that level of torment. I'm glad you figured it out because that's sort of similar to my introduction to Dyneema. Like I met the representative for it at a trade show at Kingpin's a while back, and their way of like showing you the strength is they had like a 6-inch square of it, and they cut down the middle until about maybe half an inch on either side, so you had this like 5-inch seam, and they said like put your hands in it and try to rip it apart, and we'll give you like $500 if you can rip it apart. And you think like, oh, there's just like this much material, that's no problem at all. And you saw the beefiest guys come up to this thing and get super red in the face. It was like they were trying to, rip a steel plate apart with that. It was just impossible. And I was like, wow, what is this thing? I don't understand. There has to be some way that we can use this. So I'm sorry that it had to go through all the paces, but that we provided you in Crown Northampton a challenge that you were more than up to the task for.
Yeah. And that sort of like steps into the like how similar we are, like as just as businesses, like as our views. It's like, yeah, it can be hard to work with it, and good things should take time to make, and they should be difficult to work with. If it's really easy and he can do it, and anyone can do it, like why do it? In my mind, like what's the value?
I was going to say, on the subject of that, we can obviously talk about David's initial experiment with what he sent you before he sent you the denim.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah.
If you want to shed light on that, David.
What was that idea, David? Thanks for that.
Yeah, sorry for that. Speaking of other torturous materials that I've floated your way, that I've had this idea in my head like for a while of trying to make a bulletproof sneaker, because it's just like the most useless thing. Why would you need that? Like who's aiming at your feet? Feet are important, but it would just be sort of heavy and clunky and thick and poor to wear, but like extremely, what a feature to have. So I tried doing this myself because we get a lot of, weird cold emails at Heddles, just info at like people saying like, oh, do you want to hire my soccer ball factory in Turkey to make school uniforms for your children? It's like, okay, but occasionally we get a cool one where like this was some bulletproof fiber manufacturer in Korea and saying like, do you want samples? We'll send you samples. And so a few years ago I was like, sure, send me some of this stuff. And you have to bond all these different layers together in order to make something that can repel, it's a fabric that can repel 9mm bullets if you put 20 of them together and sandwiched. And I was like, well, maybe I can do that with a sneaker. Again, it's extremely difficult to use. In order to cut it, I had to use a laser cutter for it. But I couldn't do it because, I am a complete novice at best in shoemaking, that I disassembled a pair of Air Jordans into a pattern and made it out of like cardstock and then put it back together and trying to do it with this stuff. And I was like, I am completely like against a wall I cannot climb. And maybe if I go to the best in the business for this stuff, that they'll have a chance. And No, I don't think a bulletproof sneaker is possible. So yeah, Chris, I don't know if you even want to relive these memories of the aramid
Yeah.
fiber that I sent.
Here's a challenge. Someone send you in some bulletproof leather we can actually work with, or material that we can work with, then yeah, I'll do it. But yeah, first thing that struck when you said that was like, it's a little bit gimmicky, but I understand where you're going with it. I'll give it a go. And what I didn't realize was when we first got the material, it's actually fairly thin. It's surprisingly thin. It's just the fact you have to have 20 odd layers of it put together to make it bulletproof. And that made it a challenge. Also, it had no stretch, so it's not going to pull over or last very well. How do they use it in Korea?
They usually sandwich it like in a jacket or something. So you have like some vest and you've got cloth on the outside and like cloth on the liner, and then they'll just put, 20 sandwich layers in between. So it doesn't flex all that well, but at least it's there. So it's
Wow.
built into outerwear or some pants I've seen it used on, or, in bulletproof vests that they just have like all this material sandwiched in.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, the only thought I had of possibly using it was when you said what use is a bulletproof shoe is just playing on the line of Achilles, because we could have put bulletproof protection around that part of a boot and
Oh, yeah,
and
that collab number 2 maybe.
The
the
Achilles
actual
heel.
Achilles, yeah, the
Yeah,
actual
to
Achilles, yeah.
protect your Achilles
Yeah,
heel.
exactly. So, and that is kind of because you can use it up there because it doesn't have any pull. It's just when you're having
Yeah.
to pull it over a last and pin it all into place by hand, it's really, really, it just doesn't move. But I had a go. I mean, it was like I'm happy to have a go. If there's something with a bit more stretch in it, we could do that. But yeah, thanks for that. By the way, that was a couple of days well spent.
Yeah, sorry about that, but yeah, like I feel like we're both mad scientists here, just wanting to use crazy materials, and yeah, you're just miles and miles ahead in skill level. So to see it at least go to that level is like, okay, at least I'm not. I feel more vindicated about the utility of that material, but maybe fiber tech will develop in the coming years, or yeah, we'll find something that's useful. But yeah, like I'm glad we went down that dead end in order to arrive at something here that I think is going to be much more aesthetically pleasing, much like will age much better and be a much better product overall, but still have that same level of durability.
Yeah, yeah. And that's really important actually. The way the material is a raw denim. You can go into that a bit more about how it will. Well, I call it patinaing. I don't know what denim does. Bleed. I don't know. For me, it's like I wanted to pair it with materials that went hand in hand with it, I suppose. So we if it's going to bleed, I want it to be onto materials that kind of accept that. It's a weird thing to say, but I want that to like age with it. So we're kind of renowned for that, especially in the hand stitch collection, which is sort of where this shoe sort of got its basis of construction from. So on the facing, which is the front of the shoe, and on the back of the shoe, we use baby calf, a veg tan baby calf, which is tanned in Italy. It's a really, really rare calf. It's like the rarest calf leather we could find, to be honest, other than oak bark tanned, but that's it. Another story. We can't get that in white. But we could get this in like an off-white, and this will patina over time. All our veg tan calf leather always patinas, and it will patina nicely alongside the denim. What the denim will do is bleed a little bit, I think. So over this, it will slowly change, and I wanted to use leathers and materials that did the same. So the sole is a lacta heavier sole, which is a natural gum poured from a tree, literally sap from a tree, poured into a mold and left to set over a couple of days. And it felt right to put that with the material as well, because it will patina and it will take on all the stuff that comes from the Dyneema. And then inside we've lined them all with like our best calf leather. It's like a veg tan calf leather. Hopefully that won't turn too blue, I presume. But if you take your foot out over time, that will go a really nice dark brown. And I think it would be cool to like might be something in the making of running like a patinaing competition or something that can show like how they vary. But you'd
Yes, absolutely. That I loved where your head was at because as soon as I saw the initial photos of the sample, I was like, yes, like we're totally on the same wavelength because, a lot of folks like sort of lean away from the crocking and the fading. They say, oh, I want this sneaker to look the same on day one as it does on day, 200. But that's just, not a fact of life. You want something to age and get better with wear. And the way that you've constructed them and the materials that we've used are just perfectly teed up, whether it's in the black or the indigo, where it really, really shines, that you can see the indigo displace and you can see like where the creases in your foot are. You might be able to even like see a little x-ray of your foot through the way that the denim fades. And yeah, as you mentioned, we're working on there will be a fade contest that accompanies these, where we're going to have 1 year of everyone who gets the shoe to see how they aged uniquely and what they look like at the end of it, which, I'm about as excited about as seeing the shoe brand new, to see how every different person molds these to their feet and what their different activities use, and see like, oh, maybe one person's a painter, or one person rides their bike, or one person, we always get someone from Indonesia that like works in a silver mine or something, like
Yeah.
hammering away with their 24-ounce jeans. So I'm looking forward to someone doing that in them.
yeah.
But yeah,
I think it's
same
James.
I think what's cool is like the two colorways. The off-white colorway, I think will just turn completely blue with enough, where I think the indigo will kind of croc onto the sole for sure, and definitely on the kind of like where the laces are. But I think that's what really that leans into our heritage as a company, with like Fade Friday and Fade of the Day being such a big part of how we became what we are now. We started off as raw denim 14 years ago. And I think that leans, the white pair especially leans into that. But then the black pair will be slower, because obviously you won't notice the crocking as much, so you have to wait. But then when the denim does fade, after maybe like a couple of years, or if they see a lot of water in the first year, you'll actually see the denim will shine even more itself, if that makes sense. So on the white pair, I feel like it will be this big canvas of just like indigo loss and fades, whereas on the black pair you're going to have a really striking contrast between the black components and the denim. So I think seeing those results in a year's time is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, cool. So what actually happens to the denim? Does it lose, does the color get lighter and lighter?
Well, like crocking is basically where, like, like if you were to just like rub your thumb from the upper onto the sole, you would see some like transfer of the indigo dye. Different denims croc or bleed is the other term, in different amounts. But this one, with having the Dyneema component, I imagine that the indigo doesn't hold on to the Dyneema fibers as well as it does the cotton fibers. So I think it crocs quite a lot. But in terms of like how it's going to fade, that's all part of the excitement, because we don't know. We'll know that it will lighten as it loses indigo. But yeah, that remains to be seen. And it depends on what people do in them, and that's the beauty of denim, is that it ages differently for everyone. So yeah.
Yeah, so don't kick your feet up on your white couch necessarily in these,
Yeah.
but yeah, is like a little, I guess Denim Head 101 on these is like when indigo is applied, or black, like sulfur dye, is applied to a textile like this, it usually is rope dyed, as in the case of these, where it is dunked in the indigo, like it's white, and it's dunked in the indigo very briefly and then taken out and then done again. So it only goes on the outside of the yarn, so it stays white in the middle. And indigo is actually kind of a poor dye stuff if you're looking at it from a purely industrial point of view, that it doesn't bond all that strongly with cotton. So like as you use it, it gets brittle and it starts to chip off with areas of high stress where you're bending it or where you're rubbing it. So it starts to reveal that white core the more and more you do in it. So yeah, we don't advise people to launder these, because usually, like if you wash your jeans, then you get indigo loss all the way over it as it washes and dries, and that's why people put them in the the tub because it doesn't agitate them and artificially knock off some indigo. But yeah, with these, it's going to be purely raw from beginning to end. Don't put them in the washing machine. That
Yeah,
the denim might be
definitely.
able to handle it, but that wonderful veg tan calf leather, I think would not have a great time. But yeah, that it's going to be this unique canvas that everyone's going to wear on their feet
Yeah,
that
that's
will
dead
paint
interesting.
itself.
Dead interesting. I'm gonna wear this pair all year, and in a year's time, perhaps you could do like a prize or something. I'm happy to make a pair of shoes for someone.
Oh yeah, that's what we were considering is having a resole for whoever did it and potentially a pair of shoes. So yeah,
Yeah,
if
cool.
you're up for it, because yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
most excited that I asked you to make me the crazy mismatched pairs. I got one black and one indigo, which you were kind enough to humor me on because I want to see how they compare, differently because I'm going to wear the same pair and you can see like how the indigo compares to the black one over
Yeah,
time and how they fade.
yeah. That's
Um,
cool.
but
And that,
yeah,
and
it's
that,
this.
and they fitted okay. It's probably best to go into the
Oh,
fit.
yeah, that's a thing that we can get into of like your foot measuring process because most of your orders are coming through online and you're making them to order so you want to make sure that it fits right on the first go. Your process, it's just bang on. That I don't know if I should describe it or you should get into how it goes, but yeah, the basic thing was you take a piece of paper and you trace around your foot with like a Sharpie and or other felt tip marker, and then just measure the how long that is, and then what the widest point of your foot is, and take a picture of your instep for the arch. And you were like, okay, from that we know you're an 8.5G UK size, cut set print. And as soon as I put it on, it was like, wow, this is perfect. Like both in width and volume and length, it was like these were made just for me because they were.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So to add to that, yeah, it's taken ages and ages and ages. I measure. So I'm sat in the showroom now, and I measure up people pretty much every day, and I'm pretty used to seeing feet, and they do vary a lot, like a lot. And it's taken a long time to come up with a sizing guide that works. But the most important thing is to know we are making shoes for you. Whoever's purchasing something, it's like a collab. I see it as a collaboration, not something off a shelf. So we've done a guide, but part of that guide is most people know what fits their feet from other brands and knows like if something's comfortable, if they have an unusual foot like a high arch or a collapsed arch or a high instep or a bunion, anything like that, let us know basically. So basically we have a guide. The guide pretty much works 90% of the time as it did for you, and but if it's like over half a size different to what you're kind of expecting compared to what else you buy, just get in touch because there's often something like a little thing that you would have been like your laces don't always do uptight when you're doing it. Like there's a big gap at the front of the foot, like up on the front of the facing up here, you might have a big gap. That just means you've got like a high instep, and we can adjust the patterns to suit that. And it's little things like that that like are quite easy fixes for us. We just a little bit of hand cutting. It doesn't cost any more because my ethos isn't about like charging as much as you can for the first shoe. It's about getting the fit right so that people want to come back to you. You know what? It's about supplying a service again, like my great granddad did. What I want customers for life, not just someone that's buying something because it looks cool. I want them to buy that and then go, what else have they got that's cool? Because they know my fit now. That's kind of my ethos. Yeah. So I'm really pleased it worked, or it's been proven to work so far. But again, if any doubts, it's like I've got a in factory customer service team, which I did not have 10 years ago. It's like the modern evolving business that we are. It's like, yeah, I've got people that can answer questions and deal with anything else, and often look at pictures of feet, just a picture of the foot from the side and the top, your measurements, and I'm like, yeah, you're that size. Oh, and you might need an arch support. Just let people know. It's like it's not rocket science, but it is worth looking into because you're on your feet all the time, and so get the fit right is important.
So Chris, when I came up to visit you, I got the foot tracing treatment as well, which was really cool. It's like, yeah, it's not. I mean, you get it when you're a kid, don't you? When you're buying school shoes and you get your feet measured, you just get like the Brannock device. You go to a Clark's or something, but this was a lot more thorough. And And to be honest, I mean, like, yeah, maybe we should talk about when I came up to visit and sort of meet you guys, watch the collaboration be made, which was like just incredible. But yeah, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that'd be lovely because I want who I work with is as important as what we make. Like anyone that talks about us, kind of, I want them to be singing off the same hymn sheet. I want them to know. Often when I'm talking to like an affiliate, I think they call them, or someone that's going to talk about us, I'll pick up the laptop, turn it around, and go, "This is why I'm talking to you. It's because these guys out here are making stuff. Individual pairs for individual people. Like how the business has changed from 10 years ago, even less than that, but where it was mass produced, looking for wholesale sales, and how now it is a box of shoes and every shoe is different. Yeah, it'd be cool to hear like what you thought of it, because we are very different, I think, to any other factory.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I mean, like, well, that just kind of, that was the vibe as soon as I got to you guys, like, because everyone that's there, it's more than a sum of its parts, if that makes sense. It's like everyone that's there is such a key aspect of the operation. It's like when I was thinking about this collab and I was going through the imagery that I took, I was sort of thinking about how you guys train your staff and the next generation of shoemakers. And I watched your sewer Yvette do the closing. Is it Yvette? Yeah, do the closing for
Evie. Yeah.
So yeah, do the coat. That's it, Evie.
She's the one that hand signs in the shoes. Yeah. If you get a shoes, she'll hand sign it. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, like just watching her work, I sort of thought that evening after I'd gone back to my Airbnb, I was like, well, if she was to leave, what would you do? You wouldn't just have someone lined up who has all of these amazing skills, like 40 plus years of experience or whatever it was, you know, and it's like she was talking me through the process as she did it, and it was so intricate. But that was kind of evident throughout everyone at Crown, I thought, like from the lady on reception who welcomed us in and made me a coffee, and like I could, as you were sort of off on other business, I was listening to her on the phone to customers, and she knew absolutely everything about all of the shoes, and then like looking through the perspex and seeing Will doing the hand welting. Is it Will? It is Will, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Will or Lewis do the hand welting for us. Yeah.
It was Will. Yeah, and it's yeah, and it's sort of like everything at your space is about it's like the construction first and sort of the whole like business side of things second, and it can sound like a bit of a cliche, but it's totally authentic when you're there, and no corners are cut, and yeah, brilliant vibe in the place.
I'm glad you got that. Yeah, that's really, I'm pleased that it's kind of, that's the first sort of thing you got, because it certainly ain't about money. It's about making a product that gives someone pride in what they're doing. And I've been thinking about this quite a lot lately because of just chatting to people, I suppose. And I when I started here, like my dad's it was a tiny little company. It was a few hundred and went right down to 2 people. And I was clicking, first of all, on the factory floor and learning to pattern cut and design. I still feel like because of that, I want people that work for me to have a job they want to stay at, a career. Do you know, I'm still that 16-year-old kid, and I want to be told by whoever's employing me to say, actually, it's a multi-skilled job. You can learn loads of different things. Now it's really cool, even more so, because you're using such weird and wonderful materials, and it's like every one they pick up is for someone, and it's like giving someone, it's just giving a job meaning. And it's so different to wholesale as it was like 10 years ago, where it was literally how many of them can you get out dictates what the price is. Now it's about, let's make something, and what it costs to make is the cost it is, and then we have to tell people why that is a bargain. Do you know what I mean? It's just such a different, like the product. It's someone, because I go to Japan quite a bit, because that's where my business started. Some of the guys there were explaining that's quite a Japanese way of working, which I didn't know. It's just my way of working, but it's just you design and make long term. Like this project took 2 years, which for me is fairly quick, but it's just not what what modern business is. Modern business is like a figure. How much do we need to sell something for? What does it look like? A little bit. And then how
Yeah.
much does it cost to buy it? Whereas I don't, that equation never enters my head. And and it doesn't enter my head because it's not relevant for me. Do you know what I mean? It has to, as long as people buy it at the end, it is a real kind of, I suppose it's brave in a way, but it's like having faith that people have a similar mindset to you, and like people like you having a similar mindset to me, and people that read what you write having a similar mindset to us. Do you know what I mean? And people that end up buying these shoes or not having a similar mindset. It's like, it's really, really reinforcing like what we're doing is the amount of people, especially coming here, that I get a chance to speak to, saying this is flipping amazing. Because 30 years ago when I started, it was a factory job and loads of people were doing it. Now there's so few people doing it, especially in Northampton, that it's just rare. And people want to know what it is. It's like it's like a dinosaur. You know, what is that? What is it you're doing over there? Why are you hand welting or hand stitching that? There's no need to do it. There is a need to do it. It makes something better. It makes you respect the material more. It makes you respect your staff more, and it makes you respect the final product more. And it's like, it's that. I'm so pleased that you see that, because like that's what gets me up in the morning. That's what you can probably tell. I've gone up a notch in enthusiasm, because like that's what drives me. Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely that you saw that. It's cool.
It's the old the family cliche. Oh, we're a family here, and that's usually what people tell you when you get a job at like some horrible retail shop, and you know they're not a family at all. But like it really is. It feels like that. Like I said about Evie, you know, she's a pillar of the production process. They're not just numbers. They're people that have these amazing skills. And like Lee was showing me how he like the lasting and things like that, and just his ability to just adjust the parameters on the machine depending on the leather and depending on the last. It was just, yeah. And it was almost like a well-oiled machine without the kind of overarching kind of watching eye of some horrible line manager. But because everyone was so good at their job and also just so happy to be doing it, you know? So yeah, it was sort of, I left feeling very sort of wholesome. Just for our listeners that maybe haven't seen our launch article yet, or just that are listening to this for the first time, could you run down just what the sneaker's made out of, and how the sort of sole is attached, and how they're constructed, and what makes them able to be recrafted over and over again?
So the upper is the Denim, which you can obviously go into. That is accompanied by drum-tanned Italian calf from the Alpine region, actually, if you want to know where specifically it's from. Takes about 8 weeks to tan in a drum. Underneath that, in the lining, is quite interesting, actually, because it's a whole cut, which is really unusual. But the idea of a whole cut piece of lining leather, as well as a whole cut upper leather, is that it will encase your foot without any seams. So it should, in theory, from a shoemaking perspective, be about as comfortable as you can get. Underneath that is a veg tan insole, which is a big chunky bit of leather, which is designed basically from my dress shoemaking experience, where people would walk on this day in, day out for years. We stuck with that material for the insole. Underneath that is cork, which will mold your foot. This top surface and the cork underneath it will slowly mold your foot. Your foot sits on the same material as the lining, which is the veg tan calf leather, which will again patina over time, a bit like the upper. And then encasing it all is a lacquer heavier sole. So this is poured into a mold, sap from a tree, poured into a mold, left to set for a couple of days, and this gets attached to the upper. And what makes what we do quite unusual is that we can resole. So the reason being is, and even with Dyneema, is it's because it's such a good, hardy, quality leather, it's not going to fall apart when we unstitch the sidewall stitching that holds the sole on. When we take that off to replace the sole after 2 or 3 years, it's not going to pull the material apart. Cheaper sneakers that have a sidewall stitch are going to be using, I reckon, anything under like $100 is going to be using quite a cheap leather material for the upper. That will fall apart, and the surface is usually coated with something. Whereas it's a material like this, the sole will peel off it and it won't damage the upper material, which allows us to replace the soles, which is really important. It falls in line with everything that we do. Like with all the leathers that we use, it's not a coating on top of the leather. It's really nice tanned leather that are really natural finishes, that whether it's dyed through, so that you can replace the sole. So those are the components. And then it's got like a the lace is now I'm thinking,
waxed
what is
cotton?
the lace? Thank you. Waxed was the word that was escaping me.
Yes.
So that's pretty waterproof. So we did originally trial leather laces, but leather laces, when they get wet, they snap. It's as simple as that. So it's just not the right, although it's a lovely material, it's not right for a sneaker. So yeah, waxed cotton is what we use. And that wax has got a little sheen on it. It means that they don't fall undone when you do them up. There's technical reasons for it as well as the look, but it all sits in kind of on the white, especially because it's all off-white, which kind of complements each other. Natural materials, we couldn't use a brilliant white because that's the synthetic color. Leather never comes in white. So the closest we can get is off-white, which is the color we've used for which the sole is because it's a natural gum. The leather is because it's a veg tan calf leather, and then it's lined with the natural veg as well. So those are the materials in your brand new Union sneakers.
Yeah, and just to say, like the sidewall stitching was a learning curve for me because obviously I understand how that works, but like when I saw some actual customers' shoes being resold at your factory, you see how agricultural it actually is, the sort of effort and force that is needed to remove a sole from an upper. You know, it isn't just that you pop the stitches off and it comes off. There's a bit of adhesive. The shoe's obviously been kind of pressing into the insole for ages. And like you say, if it's not top quality leather and top quality construction, that is just going to break the upper. It's just not going to be able to stand up to it. So I guess it was even... I understood, but actually seeing it happen kind of solidified just how important it is that the upper is the best quality it can be. Because, a cheaper version might handle one resole maybe, but you'd be rolling the dice. Whereas with these, I saw a customer's pair of shell cordovan sneakers get resold, and they just looked good as new. And the upper was like, I asked the guy resoling them, and I was like, how many times could you do this? And he was probably like 4 or 5, maybe more. Depending.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah. And also, we can also refurbish. So when you say replace the sole, that's probably the most common thing to do. Occasionally we get people that have really unusual feet or a really unusual way of walking, and they've worn the lining through. We not often, probably 1 in 50. We have to actually back the leather a little bit. So we call that like a refurbishing as well as a resoling. It's because we're like, if the lining gets worn through, don't worry, we can just patch it up when it comes back for the resole. It's little things like that. Like we want it to last as long as possible. It's weird, isn't it? And we don't want you to throw it away and buy a new one.
Yeah,
we want
don't
you to
buy any
make
more.
that one last.
Just send us your smelly old ones back, and we'll fix them.
Yeah. But it's justifying price point. That's what it's all about for me. And on a side note, we're in Chicago on the 8th. So I'm taking this is part of what I'm doing. Like, it gives me doing this stuff, creating all these amazing shoes, gives me the opportunity to take staff all over the world to say, look what we can flipping do. That's lovely in itself. So there's 6 of us going to Chicago to a thing called boot camp on the 8th, I think it is. We're there.
With Stitch Down.
And that'll be Stitch Down boot camp. Yeah, that'll be cool. That'll be people getting a chance to see us get measured up. See, I'm taking your sneakers or our sneakers and putting them on display. People can get to touch and feel it and feel this really mad denim. Staff are the most important thing to me. Yeah, get blue hands. In fact, the staff will probably complain about getting blue hands in a few months.
Is there anything else that we missed going over the ins and outs of this 2-year journey that we've been fortunate enough to take with each other?
How working together, like Heddles and Crown, is like a really good fit.
People often ask me what I do for a living, and I'm under no illusion that Heddles is a niche website in the grand scheme of things compared to say something like GQ or something. And I always emphasize how we just cover things. Our tagline is "Own things that you want to use forever," and obviously that started with raw denim and has extended to sort of all sorts of quality goods, including the footwear that you produce. But people always go, oh, so like what kind of, so like Levi's or like Wrangler or like, Timberland, kind of those sort of like token names. But like when it comes to footwear, I would talk about boot brands, but like Crown Northampton sort of with everything in terms of like not only making the best product you can make and sort of disregarding margins to a degree to sort of exhibit the best possible product with the best possible techniques, but also down to just the ethics of the company, sort of like that focus on longevity, offering the resoling, a really, really strong focus on customer service and making sure people get the right fit, and that the product that they get is they're going to have the best possible chance of using it forever. And down to how you treat staff and that sort of just that kind of cultural responsibility. It's just such a good fit. So I think that's why when we were sort of thinking about the name, Grand Union made so much sense because, of the concept of having, you've got the Grand Union Canal in England, which sort of was in the early 20th century. I think it was in the 1920s, expanded on the Grand Junction Canal, and basically revolutionised how goods could be transported all over the country. And obviously among those goods would have been, especially from Northampton, finished footwear, closed uppers, leather, lasts, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, not only have you got the union between Heddles and Crown Northampton, you've got that basis, that historical basis when we were sort of looking at sort of the history of textiles and leather in the UK. So yeah, I think it's a really good fit, and I think that what we've managed to come up with is something that sort of actually has the personality of both companies, because people think of Heddles, they think of denim. It's what we'll always be known for, and it's what we'll always try and be known for. And Crown Northampton is known for sleek, well-crafted dress sneakers, basically, is what I sort of call them. I mean, they're in a category of their own, really, aren't they? Because they're not a sneaker in the same that like a Jordan is or an Air Force One. And they're not like a side. Actually. Yeah, they're not like a side. They're not like a sidewall stitch sneaker like a Common Projects or a vulcanized sneaker. They're kind of in their own league. So I think it's what we've managed to come up with, especially with the fading potential, really sort of encapsulates what we're both about. So I think it is a really nice snug fit, just like David's new pair that he's got through the post that he's really happy with.
Yeah. That's a good point. My background is originally hand welted dress shoes, which is why we're making hand welted sneakers. But that's why some of the components in the shoe are the same. We use the veg tan shoulder, the bit your foot is on is the veg tan shoulder, and underneath that is cork, just like a dress shoe. That's kind of, I suppose that's what makes us a little different to most, is that we're using those materials that are designed to mold to your foot from the ground all around the foot. It's in the veg tan lining, and all of it should mold to your foot and make it comfortable. That's the idea, anyway. And then that union between dress shoe or dress sneaker is important. The union between you and us is important. The union between the two materials, veg tan and the Denim, is all of it. There is such a union, and hopefully a union between the person that are buying it with the same beliefs. So when we were batting to and forth about what the heck to call it, the Grand Union felt really nice, to be honest. It felt like it felt just like factual and that's where I normally go with whenever I'm making something. A bit like when I say it's the best sneaker in the world. It's just a fact. And this felt like a Grand. Factually felt like a Grand Union. So it works perfectly. Yeah. Well done, team.
Yeah. Great job, everyone.
Well done, Lucy. Actually, I think that came up with that first. But yeah.
And sets us up well for. Maybe in a couple years we can have a grand reunion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Chris. As James said, This is just sort of like the ideal partner that we have in going through this journey, and we're really excited to share it with all of our readers and all of your customers as well. So yeah, people can find it on crownnorthampton.com, and it'll be up on Monday, November 3rd. And you can find the full write-up that we each have. James has written one that's extensive on our end, and I believe you've written one extensive on your end about the process of going through and making it. And yeah, check Chris and the whole team out at Boot Camp in Chicago on November 8th. All right. Oh, until next time, yeah, thank you very much for joining us, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome.